What's up, fight fans? This is Kurt DeVille with Counterpunch Boxing News, and I have some new news concerning Eddie Hearn. Get this. Eddie Hearn states that a lot has to happen to make Joshua Hrgovic possible for March. Eddie Hearn, promoter of the former two-time heavyweight champion, cautions that a lot has to happen in order to finalize a fight between Filip Hrgovic and Joshua. And Joshua's on track to return to the ring in March in Saudi Arabia. He was initially slated to face the WBC former champion Deontay Wilder, but suffered a defeat to Parker. And Hearn would like to see the same three-fight schedule to play out in 2024, and he had this to say. He said, I think he's going to fight in March. Then I guess he's going to fight in August or September. So whether it's 3 times in the calendar year or 3 times from March to March, something like that, Hearn said. He said, a lot has to happen by March to make that possible with Hrgovic. Obviously, Fury and Usyk fight in the middle of February. Are they going to be able to keep the belt? Do they have to let it go? Is Joshua just going to replace Wallin in the rankings? There's a lot of discussions. He said, if that's in play for March, that's definitely a possibility. Maybe that's a fight that when everything plays out could be one for the summer. As I said, our conversations right now are about mapping out AJ's next 4 or 5 fights, his 2024, and potentially the rest of his career. Those are the words of Eddie Hearn, and let me counterpunch. What Eddie's saying is he's trying to wait to see what happens to that IBF belt, and if it does come up for grabs, because we know the formation and the reputation of the IBF, that fight and that belt may be available. Okay, and if it does become available, you know AJ's going to jump on it, because he's going to jump on it. And if he does, and he can fight, and you know Hrgovic's going to want to fight for it, because that's what he's waiting for. So if it does become available, AJ's there, Hrgovic's already there. They're going to come together and fight for the belt, and whoever wins becomes the new IBF heavyweight champion. If Hrgovic upsets Joshua, get this. If he upsets Joshua, he will become the first Croatian, I believe, heavyweight champion of the world. Okay, he becomes the IBF. But if AJ knocks him out like a lot of people assume he's going to do, he becomes a 3-time heavyweight champion. And I think at that point, he would pretty much be sealing his legacy and be setting himself up for whoever wins between Tyson Fury and Alexander Usyk anyway. Okay? So whatever happens in that rematch, if there is a rematch between those two fighters, if there's not a rematch, the next person that will be fight will be the newly crowned champion on the IBF side, if the IBF decides to strip the two fighters. You know, it's happened before, lately with Terrence Crawford and Errol Spence. So why can't it happen between Alexander Usyk and Tyson Fury? Okay, it happened to Tyson Fury before, back in the day, back in 2015, when he upset Vladimir Klitschko. He was stripped 2 weeks later. So the IBF, they do what they do over there, and they may do the same thing, and if that's the reputation that they have, more than likely they will do. That's why Eddie Hearn's waiting, because he doesn't know, because there's many moving parts in the situation to see where that fight, or if that fight happens. Now, the question would be, what happens if it's not the way people think it's going to play? Bars. Well, AJ could fight Ngannou. AJ could fight Zhilei Zhang. There's a lot of fights. You know, Frank Warren wants Daniel Dubois and AJ, and you know he would jump like a frog if that fight could be made. You know, Daniel Dubois versus Anthony Joshua. That would be a pretty good fight. And you know they're going to market that fight based on Daniel Dubois putting AJ down long years ago. Okay? It's like Irish Mickey Conley versus James Reaper Roper, right? What is that? Not Great White Hype. Yeah. Shout out to Peter Berg and Damon Wayne, Samuel Jackson, Jeff Goldblum. One of my favorite comedy boxing movies. Guys, you got to check it out. But yeah, it'll be more like that, you know, than anything else, because AJ is a two-time heavyweight champion. Danny Dubois is a regular WBA champion that come up short against Alexander Usyk, a guy that beat both of them. So, that would be still a fight. I think that would be more of a British showdown than anything else, really. You know what I mean? But I think it would still sell. I think maybe not Wembley, definitely O2 or Tottenham. Tottenham could do some big numbers with that fight because, matter of fact, AJ's got his mojo back. So, you might be able to stick that in Wembley. You know what I mean? Give Danny Dubois his props because he took out the bad guy, Big Baby Miller. And, the people are really praising him now based on what Miller just did, right? To become more of a bad guy, okay? So, I think really when you're dealing with Anthony Joshua, he can pretty much do whatever he wants, and the world is pretty much his oyster at this point because he's back, and Hrgovic may be the guy front and center. But you guys tell me what you think of Eddie Hearn stating that a lot has to happen before Hrgovic and Joshua can get in the ring by March. Of course, please subscribe, and you guys been Counterpunch. Peace!